All right. Well, we're doing review number 4 in Mounce's workbook. So we'll turn to that now. And here we have it. I also have my textbook available here, so I can show you where I get the answers. And I'm going to put my textbook on a different screen so I can cheat if I need to. All right. Okay, so the first question is, define the following 3 aspects, clearly differentiating among them. Okay, so the question is really talking about what are the 3 aspects. This is kind of weird, and so I'm going to take just a second to explain what we mean by that. So when we're talking about verbs, there's a few different things that we can talk about, like a few different things that verbs tell us about what's happening. A verb can tell us when something happened. And when we're talking about when, we're talking about time. Did something happen in the past? I ran versus I will run. Ran means in the past, will run is future, and I run is present time. So that's time. So something can happen in the past, in the present, or the future. Aside from time, there's also a different type of thing a verb can tell you, and that is aspect. A verb can have one of 3 aspects. It can either be continuous, undefined, or punctiliar. Now, this has nothing to do as to when a verb occurs. So it has nothing to do with time. It doesn't mean it happened in the past or versus future or present. This is telling you if the verb is still happening in the mind of the speaker. And again, has nothing to do with time, just whether or not the action is complete or still going on. So, for example, let's say an action occurred in the past, like I was eating. Okay, that's in the past. Well, I was eating, the way that's phrased tells you that the action is still happening. So, for example, I was eating when my dog barked. Okay, was eating tells you that when the dog barked, you were in the process of eating. It was still happening. This is what continuous means. Continuous aspect means it's an ongoing process. Now, the ongoing process idea can happen in the past, it can happen in the present, or it can happen in the future. It has nothing to do with time. So an ongoing process in the past would be I was eating when the dog barked. In the present, I am eating, so stop barking, right? That means it's happening in the present. Or if it's happening in the future, I will be eating when the dog barks. So the idea of continuous action, ongoing process, it can happen at any time. Undefined, well, let me hold off undefined until the end. Punctiliar is the opposite of going. It happens in a point of time. That means it happens at a specific point. So for example, I had eaten. I will have eaten. I am done eating, kind of thing. So the idea of the verb is punctiliar. It means it is complete. It's done. It happened at a specific time. That's the idea of punctiliar. It happened in a specific point in time. The last option is undefined, and basically it means it doesn't speak to the process. The way the textbook words it, maybe that's a better answer, is a simple action, where it doesn't tell you anything about whether it's ongoing or if it's done. It's just that it happened. So in Greek, for example, if you see an undefined verb, or if the verb is undefined, it means it doesn't tell you if they were eating or had finished eating, just that they ate. So, I ate yesterday. Well, in that sentence, you don't know if the author means that you had been eating when something else occurred, or if you just were done eating when something occurred. So it's just that you ate. So that's the idea between these three. Continuous means it's still happening, whether it's past, present, or future, that the action is ongoing in the sentence. Punctiliar means that the action happened at a specific moment in time, and that's it. And undefined means the verb doesn't care to tell you whether it's ongoing or unappointed at a specific point in time. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't tell you that. Okay, hopefully that's clear as mud. All right, now we've got to write out the verb, the paradigm of luo. Okay, you're gonna find this. For me, it's on page 150. Probably if you have an updated book, I think these pages are off, so I'm sorry about that. But for me, it's chapter 18, section 8. So this should be the same, I think. I don't think that changes. So I'm going to slide this off to back out of here so I can type these out. I'm going to see if I can type in the accent markers here. So luo. Oopsies. Luis. Can't see. Where's this going? Lue. And then the first plural will be luamen, luete, luusin. And the way it's done here is with the removable new. Okay, for the middle passive of luo, it's going to be luomai, lue. It's not going to let me do the subscript iota, I don't think. So I think there's some way of doing subscript iota, but I don't know how to do it. So anyway, no. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's J for those of you using the keyboard. Lu etai, lu ametha, lu este. Sorry to type in Greek. Luantai. Bam. All right. So there's your forms of luo. Okay. So I'm cheating a little bit. I've already done a little bit of question number 3. All right. Write out the master verb chart, and you're only doing the present and part of the future active, liquid future active, and middle future. So for that, I'm using logos, so it helps me find these things pretty quickly here. Let's type in master verb. Oops. Master verb chart. And here's an earlier form of the verb chart. We need to get to the one that includes the future, middle, and liquid. Here we go. So mine's on page 176. This is going to be in chapter 20 at the end. You can find the master verb chart. And we're not writing the whole thing out. We're doing most of it, but you don't have to do the liquid middle. So apparently this review does not include it. I want you to notice that there is a section here for you to type in augment or reduplication. The verbs you've learned don't have any of this, so that's all going to be blank. Okay. I also want to note that right now, the tense stem that the verbs you've learned are using, they're kind of just cheating. They're just using the same stem as the tense. So that's nice. It will not be this easy in the future, but for right now, the present and the future are using the present and the future stems. So that's nice. Tense formative. The present active, or the present does not use any tense formative. This means there's nothing connecting the stem to the connecting vowel. You just put the connecting vowel to the stem and that's it. There's nothing in the middle. So, you can just put a dash there if you want, but really nothing connects the connecting vowel to this tense stem. That's not true of the future. For the future, you take the future tense stem and you have to put a sigma between that and the connecting vowel. So while this will create lu-o, in order to make that into a future, it would become lu-so. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. For the liquid future, you're going to do an epsilon sigma. All right. I hope that helps. Okay. Another note for the personal endings. For the personal endings, this might be kind of confusing. Go to chapter 18, and somewhere at the end here, where is it? Okay, it's 18, section 8, something called the master personal ending chart. And this is only half completed so far because you haven't learned the rest of it. Once you get to the aorist and imperfect, you'll deal with secondary tenses. But for now, you have this. What's happening here is that actually there are 4 tense endings. There's 4 endings that you can attach to a verb. But each tense uses one of those 4 options. So this chart is asking you which of these 4 options is that tense using. So for example, the present active indicative is using this corner of the chart. Okay? The present middle passive is using this corner of the chart. When you get to the future active is using this corner of the chart. Okay? When you get to the future middle passive, actually I don't remember what the middle passive uses, but this is kind of embarrassing. I don't remember. Yeah, okay, so the future active and the middle passive use the middle passive endings. So anyway, 18, here we are. So the future active and the future liquid active, they both use this corner. And so what you're putting down in this chart is you're basically writing down in this column, you're writing down which of these corners is it using. So to fill out this chart, the present active uses the primary active endings. So primary is the options on the left-hand side. Secondary, which you haven't done yet, is going to be on the right-hand side. Okay. Active are your top 2, and middle passive are your bottom 2. That's how this is figured out. So for example, what personal endings does the present middle passive use? Well, the middle passive uses this corner. Lu-amai, lu-e, lu-etai, lu-ameta, lu-este, lu-antai. This is on the primary side, on the middle passive side. So you would do this. Primary, middle passive endings. Good. Okay, what about the future active? The future active uses these. They're your primary active. So it's going to be primary active. Your liquid future also uses these. So those are going to be primary active. Okay, your future middle uses primary middle passive. Middle passive, that's how that works. Okay, for the first singular, that's going to be basically like your kind of like your lexical form. So it's this group right here, lu-amai, lu-o, lu-amai, and the full pair, all the answers are right here. Lu-o would be first singular for your primary active indicative. I guess I should stop being lazy and just do it. Oops, we're in Hebrew. Lu-o. Lu-amai. Parusa, and I do not know. Oh, they're using Meno and Pariumai. So Meno and Pariumai. Oh, I forgot the accent here. Sorry, guys. Pariumai. Okay, so that would be it. So this is basically what's the first singular of this option. So what is your first person singular future middle? And it's going to be Pariumai. Oh, look at this misspelling. My bad. Okay. All right, what are the big 5 contraction rules? All right, so let's go to contract verbs. Here we go. Rules on contractions. All right. Of the 7 rules, I'm in chapter 17, just before section 6. So I guess I'm chapter 17, section 5. All right. Of the 7 rules, the first 5 are the most important. How do you get epsilon upsilon? You get it from epsilon omicron or omicron epsilon or omicron omicron. Okay, just to give you a review. Remember that some verbs end in a vowel. So for example, the word agapao, I love. Agapao technically ends in an alpha. So what these rules tell you is if agapao ends in an alpha and you combine, and you add your connecting vowel, okay, right? So your present active tense stem is agapao. And so it ends in an alpha. So if you take agapao, let me do this real quick. All right. So I'm going to have to use my little fancy board here. All right. So here's what it's saying. That if you take, like, why can't I write? Here we go. Okay. So you have a word like agapao. Okay. This is I love. All right. The stem is this. Okay. This is the first person ending. So if you get rid of this, this is kind of like your root for the verb. So what happens if you're going to add one of your other endings? So for example, what happens if you're going to add let's see. Oh, here's the example. Perfect. So this is saying, for example, if you're memorizing your lues, right? Luo, that's when you add nothing. Lues, that's when you add the sigma. And Lue, that's when you add the iota, right? So what happens, for example, if you're going to do this? If you're going to do this ending on agapao. Oh, man. Whoopsies. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so what happens is this. Okay. Agapa, right? When you add the ending, which is epsilon, iota, sigma, or it's not fitting on the screen there. What happens is the alpha swallows up the eta. Do you see that? You see that right here? So the epsilon disappears. That's why you have the circumflex, because the alpha eats the epsilon and then it becomes circumflex, and the iota subscripts. So when you see agapas with the subscript iota, really what's happening here is the subscript's telling you that the alpha has swallowed up another vowel, and then the iota is sunk below. So really what you're looking at is the epsilon iota sigma ending when it collides with an alpha ending. This is the nature of contract verbs, is that when they end in a vowel, they eat up the vowels of the ending, and it changes the spelling. It's not as complicated as it sounds. I'm just kind of explaining it in detail. So that's how you get these endings right here. Okay. So the major rules you have to learn are these right here. That if you see an omicron upsilon ending, that you need to know that it could have come from any of these combinations. So if you have a verb that ends in an epsilon, well, and if you see an omicron upsilon ending, it's because the epsilon collided with an omicron. Or maybe it was your verb ended in an omicron and it collided with an epsilon. Or maybe your verb had an omicron ending and it collided with another omicron. That's how you get upsilon. Why do you need to know this? Well, because sometimes you're looking at a verb and you don't know its lexical form. So if you memorize how this ending is formed, that could be formed from any of these options, you can kind of get back to the original verb. Anyway, this is the answer to question number 4. All right. Question number 5 is basically the same thing we just talked about. So for example, how do you get epsilon iota? Well, you can get it from 2 epsilons, really. That's, and I think the full answer is right here in section 17, chapter 17, section 5. So here you'll see all the options. So epsilon iota is formed from epsilon epsilon. So if you see a verb ending in epsilon iota, you need to know, like for example, poete. You need to know that it happened because poio ends in an epsilon, but when it collides with the ete ending, it changes the spelling to ete. And that's why you have this weird epsilon iota in the middle. So you should be expecting to see this. Poieo, right? If you combine ete with poieo, you would expect poiete. But you're never going to see that. You're going to see poite instead of poiete. So this whole chapter, this section is just explaining to you, why do you see this in writing instead of this? Well, it's because 2 epsilons collide, and when they collide, they create epsilon iota. Same thing with omega. So when you get an omega, well, it can happen for a lot of reasons. If you have an alpha and it collides with an omicron, for example, agapao, when it combines with the ending amen, you don't get agapa amen, which is what you would think you would get. These 2 letters, alpha and omicron combined, will create agapomen. So this is just asking you, how do you create that? Well, you get that from alpha plus omicron. Oh, it's not letting me do the plus sign. But you get omega from alpha omicron. How do you get this? Well, that can happen for a lot of different reasons. You can have epsilon omicron, you can have omicron epsilon, or omicron omicron. So poieo, for example, we just did poieo. If you did poieo and you put the amen ending to it, so if you have poi eo, right? And you want to do, instead of the omega first person singular ending, if you want to do the first person plural, right? Amen. The omicron, when you add this ending to poi e, the epsilon and the omicron are going to collide to create, here you go, omicron, epsilon, omicron, here you go. Okay? When these two collide, these are going to disappear, and they're going to become ooh. So you're going to get poi, oh, pardon me. Just erase all this for a second. So when those two collide, you're going to get poi, and then the epsilon omicron are going to create poi umen. Now you would think that if you get poi e plus amen, you would get poi e amen. But as it turns out, when these two collide, you get poi umen. I hope I'm not beating this thing to death, but that's what it is. Okay. All right. I'll pause on here and continue later.